and welcome back. So, in today's tutorial, you're gonna learn how I did the cloth dynamics from my latest project. And we're gonna start off in Cinema, where I'll be showing you how I made the hanging jacket. Then we're gonna jump into Houdini, and I'll show you how to get a better result using vellum cloth. So if you're ready to learn some Houdini tricks, then come along for the ride. So we are first of all gonna start off in Cinema. And then afterwards, I'm gonna show you how to make the exact same thing in Houdini. So here in Cinema, I've just imported lights and a camera. And I have also imported a garment. So let's just get started. First of all, we are going to make the coat hanger. And we're just gonna do that by making a cylinder. Let's drag it up here. And I'm just gonna go to my garment under the basic tab and make it X-ray so you can actually see through it. Alright, so now we're just gonna go and make this a little bit smaller in the radius and a lot longer in the length. So let's rotate it and just place it right around here. I think that should be good. Alright, so let me just press NF to go to lines display. And I can see we need some subdivisions. So let's turn these two subdivisions, the height and the rotation segments, to 32. And that's looking so much better. So let's go to the cylinder and let's hold shift and click the bend so we can get a bend deformer on it. Then we can turn this to around 70 degrees. And now we can just place it. So I'm just gonna rotate it and put it inside here. I'm actually just gonna switch to quick shading again by pressing NC. You can also do it up here. Let's just place it somewhere that's good. All right. Let's place it a bit in front so we get more of this zipper being upright instead of drooping down. So yeah, this should be good. Let's make it a bit bigger, actually. Okay, so now let's go and make this a collider. So we're first of all just gonna put it down here, call it collider. And let's go to simulation tags, collider. Let's then go to our garment and make this one a cloth tag. Okay, cool. So let's just press play and see what we have. All right, so this definitely doesn't look right at all. And as you can see, it actually comes off the hanger. So we definitely need to tweak something. Okay, so I'm just quickly gonna switch this garment off X-ray mode so we have something much nicer to look at. Then I'm gonna go to my collider, gonna set the friction to 0.8. I'm gonna go to my cloth tag, and now we're gonna make the fun stuff. So let's set the thickness to 3 centimeters because we want some thickness and some distance to this hanger. Then I'm gonna turn the friction to 15. Then I'm also gonna put plastic deformation and stretch deformation on. And that's actually it. So let's just play it again. As you can see, it's much better, but it still stretches a lot. And as you can see, it makes these really ugly geometry glitches. And also in the back, you can see the inside through it. And we don't really want that. So there's one thing we can do. We can press Ctrl D to go to our project settings. Then we can go to simulation. And then we can turn the iterations to 2. And that should help with being a little bit more accurate in our solve. Then I'm also going to turn the gravity to -500 instead. So we have a little bit less gravity, but it makes the whole garment feel a lot lighter. So let's try and run this again. And the whole garment actually looks pretty nice now. But we still have this ugly glitching effect up here. So this is the one really important thing that you need to know about the new cloth tag. It's really against triangles. So we need to make this into squares so the simulation actually looks correct. And how do you do that? Well, first of all, we're gonna duplicate our garment. And then I'm just gonna delete the cloth tag from this. I'm gonna call this garment high res. And then I'm just gonna forget about this for a moment. And I'm gonna go here and select a remesh. And we're gonna put our garment that we're gonna simulate inside of the remesh. And let's just see what it did. And look at that. We lost all the detail of the garment. There's still some, but it's not as much as before. But we got these nice squares. And the detail that we lost, we're gonna get that back in just a moment. So now we just need to make this remesher editable. And before we do that, it's really important to put this cloth tag down here so we actually save our settings. Because if we make it editable when it's still on it, it's gonna disappear. So I'm gonna make it editable now. And now we have our remeshed object, as you can see. So let's delete this remesh now. Let's put this cloth tag on it again. Let's delete these materials because we really don't need them. And now the fun begins. We need to make a mesh deformer. So the mesh deformer we're gonna put under our high res object. And then we're gonna put our garment that's remeshed inside of the cage tab here. And then we're gonna put it to surface area. And then we're gonna press initialize. And it's just gonna take a little bit of time. All right, as you can see, we got this really nice cage here. So the only thing left to do is go and turn this on to be visible again. We can press NC to make it quick shading mode. And then we're gonna hide our remeshed geometry because we don't wanna look at that anymore. So let's play it and see what we did. So as you can see, we have a really nice looking garment now, and it doesn't do these really weird glitches anymore. So this is perfect for retaining all of our precious UV maps, and it also makes it really easy to make our high-res garment even more high-res. The last thing we need to do here is we're gonna go back to the start, frame 0, and then we're gonna make a turbulence. All right. And I'm gonna set the scale to around 25, I think. And that should be good. So I'm gonna set my timeline to 90 frames. And I'm just gonna cache this cloth tag. So I'm gonna go to cache tab and press cache scene. So everything is cached now. As you can see, we're getting this nice looking animation where it blows in the wind. And now it's time for me to show you how to do this effect in Houdini. Alright, so welcome to Houdini. And first of all, just to let you know, I've just set up my viewport so it resembles cinema. So it's a little bit easier to follow along. So, first of all, we navigate the same way as in cinema. And when we make a new node, we press tab and we search for the node. So first of all, let's make a geometry node. And let's go inside of the geometry node. Then let's make a file. And in this file node, we are going to place our garment in this tab. So I'm just going to find it on my hard drive. And there we go. So I've just found it. And what just happened? Well, it is because Houdini always imports geometry really large. So we need to press tab and make a transform. And we'll bring this file into our transform node. And let's preview this by pressing this button so it gets blue. So now we are previewing this node. And then we can go to uniform scale and say 0.01. Nice. So that's a little bit more like it. All right. So now we need to make the same setup as before. So I'm going to make a tube. And I'm also going to make a bend. Okay. So this bend requires some geometry to bend it. Of course it does. So let's put the tube inside of the geometry here. So let's view our tube by pressing this button, the blue button. And as we can see, we need some caps on this thing. So let's select the tube here and let's go to end caps. All right. So now I want to set the primitive type to a polygon sub. And that makes it so we get rows and columns. So I'm going to set these to 32 and 32, just as we did in Cinema. So then I'm going to put the center point to the top. And you do this by pressing the middle mouse button. So then it brings up this menu. And then you can drag from either side to scale it. And if you go down, you scale it by 0.01 in the increments. Okay, so first of all, we can look at two things at a time. But one thing we can do is select this, which is the template viewer. And then we can see a outline or our mesh of the thing we want to view. So that's really convenient because then we can select this tube and we can actually place it where we want to. So I'm going to set it up here. And then I want the radius scale to be much, much smaller. And then I want the height scale to be much larger. And then we can rotate it. So I'm just going to rotate it 90 degrees, just as we did in Cinema. And then I'm going to go over to this tool, which is our Gizmo tool. So we can actually now control the whole thing just as we do in Cinema. And it's so much nicer to do it this way. So as you can see, it's a bit too long and we need it to be a little bit more thick. So let's just do it like this. Okay, that should be good. Okay, so now we need to select our bend by pressing this button right here, the blue one. And now we just need to find the right angle to put it on. Because as you can see, it is really not in the right place. All right, so we can go down here to capture and we can set it to 1 in this angle here. And we can set it to 0 in the other. All right. So that should be good. But we also need to pull up our origin point. So as you can see, it's down here and it's a bit far away. So let's pull it up here. And I just pulled it just like last time. So let's go like this. And let's make the capture length a bit longer. Let's go a bit to the side. All right. So as you can see now, we have this nice bend. So all we need to do now is make a transform. Let's put it here. Let's view our transform. And one thing we need to do is go to the pivot transform and actually move that up. So we have our anchor point more in the center of our object. So just like this. And then we can use these transform tools out here. So I'm just gonna position it like this. Pull it a bit up. And there we go. It looks really nice. All right, so let's get into the fun stuff. So let's select this transform over here. And let's make a vellum solver. And let's also make a vellum configure cloth. Just like this. And then we can go and connect these wires here. Whoop, just like that. Then we can go take the stack, move it a bit over here. So this stack is just gonna be our collider. So let's pull the collider into the collider geometry. And let's pull our garment into our vellum geometry. And now there's just a few things we need to do. So first of all, we need to select this vellum solver so we can actually see what is happening. Then we need to go down in our vellum cloth here. We need to go down to our stretch and we need to set that to 500. I just found it to be a good amount of stretch for this garment. And then we need to go to bend stiffness and set that to 25. So now we can go to our vellum solver and we can go into simulation tab and we can set this to a little bit more. I usually set it to 50,000. And that's just depending on how much memory you have on your computer. So let's just go and actually play this. And one quick thing to note, if you press this real-time toggle, then everything will play in real time. So that's good to keep on. All right, so I've just previewed a little bit of this. And as you can see, it doesn't look that great. We have some glitching going on here and it really doesn't look like anything. So we first of all need to remesh this, just as we did in Cinema. So let's go and create a remesh and let's actually put it in here. And as you can see, it really did a number on our UVs. First of all, we need to take this target size down. And then we need to fix our UVs because they're really shitty now. And we can simply do this by just pressing this hardened UV seams. And yeah, we get our nice UVs back. All right, so now we have a much denser mesh and a much better mesh to simulate. So let's press simulate again. All right, so as you can see, it's a bit too heavy on the gravity. It really pulls it down and stretches it out, and we really don't want that. So I'm just gonna go into my vellum solver settings. I'm gonna go to forces and I'm gonna set that to -4. And let's see what that looks like. So yeah, that looks so much better. We don't get that hard of a stretch anymore. And it really looks nice. Okay, so now we can actually cache our animation. But before we do that, we might need to add a little bit of turbulence to it. So the way we do that is we double click on our vellum solver and then we can go and search for a pop force. And this pop force we can just put into our force output and then we can turn the amplitude up to 1. And we can just look at what that does to our object. All right, so I've just previewed a little bit here to show you. And what it does, it just gives it a little bit of random noise. As you can see, it just gives it right here, just gives it a little bit of random noise and looks kind of nice. So let's actually cache this whole animation so you can see what it looks like. So let's go back to our geometry node here. So let's make a file cache and let's put our vellum solver into our file cache. Let's preview the file cache and let's go and press save to disk. So it's just gonna run through all the frames and cache them for us. Alright, so I've just cached this animation and it looks really nice in my opinion. One thing we could do is, as you can see up here on the shoulder, it gets a bit pinchy and we really don't want that. So we're just gonna go back to our tube here and we're just gonna make our tube a bit longer. So we're gonna go to the height and just make it a bit longer, like that. And then we can preview our transform down here so we can see what we're doing. I think this is good. All right, so let's go to our file cache again and let's cache it again by just pressing the same button as before. All right, so this should look much better. And yeah, it really does. So let's do this so you can actually see what it looks like. And it just gets these nice folds and floppiness in the fabric. So how do you actually render this out to Cinema or any other 3D program? Well, we're gonna make a ROP Alembic output, and ROP stands for render operator. So let's select this and let's put our file cache into it. And now we need to select some settings here. So I'm gonna change my frame range to render frame range. So after changing this to frame range, we are gonna go down here to Alembic file, and then we're gonna save it on our drive somewhere. So I'm just gonna save it in this folder, and then we need to call it something. I'm just gonna call it jacket _01. And then we also need to write down the file format. So I'm gonna write point ABC, which is Alembic file format. All right, press accept. And now you can just press save to disk. And it's just gonna go through and render our Alembic out to our desktop. So now we jump back into Cinema because I'm gonna show you that it worked. So I'm just gonna import our jacket file. I'm gonna press OK. And as you can see, we have our jacket and it's animated. And if we go and put the texture on the object again, you can see that we have retained our UVs. So that's always nice. So this was a little snippet of what Houdini is really capable of. And if you want to learn more Houdini, then I got some great tutorials on the way, so stay tuned for those. At last, I'm just gonna plug all my stuff. So if you want to follow me on Instagram, if you want to get my packs, my lighting packs, or if you just want to be a part of the community, then please go to the description. All the links are there. And at last, I just want to wish you a very nice rest of your day and go out there and make some nice 3D simulations.